Hey guys, Ryan Dossey, and in today's video, I'm going to teach you how to find hedge funds that are actively buying deals in your market. If you're looking to wholesale properties, nobody pays more than a hedge fund. This is absolutely a video you don't want to miss. Let's dive right in. If you're not familiar with what a hedge fund is, that's probably a really good place to start. So hedge funds are basically individuals or groups that are borrowing money from like mom and pop type folks or accredited investors. Oftentimes they're like family owned or run, and they're paying a return, investing that capital and cash flowing on the spread. It's very similar to how I borrow private money. I'm paying my investors anywhere from like 8 to 9% interest, but I'm flipping properties or using their capital to buy properties at a discount, or I'm cash flowing or profiting based off of that spread. The great thing with hedge funds is they're looking for like newer, nicer type assets, and they're often willing to pay retail, almost retail, or sometimes above retail to source this kind of inventory because it's pretty difficult to find. Before we dive into how to find these kinds of funds, I think it's worth discussing just one of the challenges with working with them. Typically, they're very particular and there's not much room for negotiation in how they function. So if you're strictly wholesaling properties to these guys, normally they're going to take about a month to close. They're going to want to do a full-blown inspection, and likely they're going to want to retrade once they find problems. So if you know that going into these and you're kind of prepared for that, then they're great to sell to. If you expect it to be like a typical cash buyer that can close in a few days, no inspection, or any of that, it's not really going to work that way. I can tell you from personal experience, while they can be a bit of a pain in the rear, it is absolutely worth the hassle of jumping through whatever hoops they might have, simply because they're going to pay such a premium for these newer, nicer properties. So for today's video, I'm going to show you 3 practical ways to find hedge funds that are buying deals in your market. Let's hop right into this. So first thing you're going to need here is a PropStream account. They do a free 7-day trial. I'm not here to like cram an affiliate down your throat or anything like that. If you tell them I sent you, they'll throw me a few bucks. If you don't want to tell them I sent you, that's totally cool. They're a tool we literally utilize almost every single day in our office. So the first thing we're going to do is look at corporate purchases. So we're going to hop into Pensacola, Florida, just because that's where I live. And we're going to throw in a couple filters here. So these aren't going to be owner occupied because they are funds. We're going to hop into the property characteristics, and we're going to do single family because that's typically what they're buying. We're going to go into MLS status, and we're going to do sold. And I'm going to look at just the past year. Now, these guys often buy on and off market, but it's typically easier to catch them if we're looking at properties that were sold on market. Now, we're going to start by focusing just on the people who own a minimum of 10 properties. And we can see here, like this has narrowed this down pretty dramatically down to 155. One of the other things we're going to do under the ownership type is select corporate. And we can see that knocks us down to 55. Now, the nice thing with doing this through PropStream visually, we're looking at properties that were listed on the MLS so we can see what they look like. Now, stereotypically, hedge funds are buying stuff that looks like this. I call them vinyl villages. What I mean by that, they're kind of those like cookie cutter subdivisions where everything kind of looks the same. Normally, they're like 3-bedroom, 2 baths, attached 2-car garage, 1,000 square feet plus. It's the stuff that I personally love to hold. I'm just going direct to seller, so I'm typically getting better deals than what hedge funds are getting. So this one in particular is owned by the Secretary of Veterans Affairs. That to me doesn't sound like it's a hedge fund. In fact, it tells us right there it's government. So we're going to go down to the next one here. And we can see this one is owned by R&K Rentals. Now, PropStream has a neat feature here where you can look at linked properties, so other stuff that they own. So this particular group looks like, we can do a little bit of deduction here. The main address is this address here in Gulf Breeze. Looks like Rich or Rodney and Kristen Rich. Great last name for real estate investors. R&K, so obviously this is kind of a smaller, looks like husband and wife team that are buying stuff, but we can see they're purchasing pretty regularly. So these would be great people to reach out to, see what they're looking for, and see if we can't find it for them, but not quite the hedge fund that we're looking for. So let's keep hunting a little bit. Got this one here, East Hill Restorations. We're going to hop into linked. Okay, so a little bit larger size here. They've got 43. This is likely going to be more of like a local developer is what it seems like to me, or like a local fund. We can actually see quite a few of these are owned in this person's personal name, which tells me likely that's kind of who's behind this particular group. This next one here, and Beta Gulf Holdings and Jackpot. All right, so this is effectively what we're looking for. A group that has a lot of assets, a lot of capital out. Don't pay too much attention to like the portfolio equity, estimated value equity. A lot of room for error in that. But the important thing is this particular address in Tampa is associated with 467 properties owned. We can look here and see that on these, they've been at it for a long time. They've been buying a lot, very consistently, even very recently within the past couple months. So this, in my opinion, is most definitely a hedge fund and is absolutely somebody that I'd want to reach out to and see about getting added or adding them to my buyers list. Now, on the MLS here, we can typically see who their realtor was that listed it. It's really going to be kind of the best way to get in touch with these people is through their broker. My experience with a lot of these funds, you can't just call the front door and be like, hey, let me bring you a deal. They've got a gatekeeper, which is typically going to be a local realtor or two. Now, this one thing I don't love with PropStream is this gives us the listing agent's info, not who sold it. So realistically, there's going to need to be a little bit of legwork here. I'd call Jennifer, let her know you're trying to get in touch with the realtor who was on the other side of the transaction on this particular address, see if she'll make that intro for you. If not, call your local real estate commission and see if they'll give it to you. Again, it's not like it's like private record or anything, so it shouldn't be that hard to get your hands on. So that is method one for finding hedge fund buyers through PropStream. You can see I found one here in my own backyard in just the span of a couple minutes. Alrighty, second method here. For any of you guys that are a little bit lazy, this is really straightforward. You're going to go to this website right here, which is ushedgefunds.com, and simply browse by state. We're going to do Pensacola again because that's where I'm based out of currently. Literally just do a Control F if you're on Windows or Command F if you're on Apple and search your city. So we can see there's one right here, Godwin Asset Management and Salt Marsh Capital Advisors. Now, just because they're not based out of your city doesn't mean that they don't buy there. In fact, these are just good names to start to dig into to see if they're buying in your area. But there's literally another two funds in a matter of 45 seconds that are physically based out of Pensacola, which is where I'm at, which is a relatively small town. So go to these websites, start to work your way through kind of the front door. Most of them have like a contact us section or an address. If it were me, if I'm trying to get in like the front door of a fund, I would personally see if I could just walk in. If not, I'm going to go through and try to call them or email them. Typically, in my experience with these contact us forms, they don't really get back to you. But we now have 3 funds that are buying in Pensacola in just a matter of a few minutes. You can find these in your own market too, guys. Last but not least, this is actually one of my favorite strategies for finding buyers, and that's just seeing who my competitors are selling to. So I've got this deal here in Indianapolis that some friends of mine, New Paradox, shot out. This was back in last year. So not super current, but I didn't want to pull up one of their recent ones and like show you guys who one of their buyers is. But I specifically looked for one of these like newer, nicer properties that we discussed. Looks like this one's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-story attached 2-car garage, you're probably noticing a theme. Like, this is the kind of stuff that funds are really excited about. Now, all we're going to do is take the address of this here, and we're going to throw it into PropStream. Now, you can do this with literally any deal that gets shot out in your market. It doesn't necessarily have to be one of these like newer, nicer hedge fund-esque deals. We actually do this as a means of growing our buyers list consistently. We look at what our competitors send out. We look to see if it's sold or not. And if so, who bought it? Are they on our list or not? So on this particular deal here, we can see BTH Residential LLC was who bought it, corporation, Link Properties 12. So this is probably like a smaller local group, but we can see they're consistently buying, recently. It looks like they've been active for about the past 5 years. So while this might not be like a giant hedge fund, it's somebody else paying a premium for this kind of inventory. Absolutely worth adding to your list. I actually had one of you guys specifically ask me how to do this, which is why we took the time to do it. So I appreciate those of you guys that hang out with us on YouTube that ask us questions. We're simply here to add value to you guys, trying to be the resource I was looking for when I first started out. Again, my name is Ryan Dossey. If you found this helpful, please be sure to like and subscribe. We'll talk to y'all next time.